driving in an authentic Willys Jeep. This iconic four-wheel drive vehicle replaced the military's literal workhorses, the draft animals that were used during World War I. And it was so popular that Willys manufactured more than 350,000 of these during World War II. I am headed toward La Jolla, California, to the Scripps Institution of Oceanography and the beginning of an expedition in search of a lost World War II era plane and a mystery 75 years in the making. Founded in 1903, Scripps is one of the oldest and most important Earth science centers on the planet. I'm here to meet Scripps Lab Director and Project Recover co-founder, Dr. Eric Terrell.
Hey, Josh.
Hey, nice to meet you, man.
Thanks for coming.
This place is stunning.
Scripps is a global institution looking at sea level rise. We are studying ocean waves, the forecasting of the ocean.
So if it has to do with the ocean, Scripps is on it.
We're on it.
And I take it these are some of the tools of the trade here?
Yes, AUVs, autonomous underwater vehicle. We can go out and sample 1,000 football fields in one deployment.
Wow.
This is revolutionizing what we do here at Scripps. Things we never dreamed of a decade ago we're doing now.
These sonar-equipped torpedo bots are transforming deep-sea exploration, allowing scientists to map Earth's final frontier, the ocean. I got to see them in action while searching for Gertrude Tompkins, another missing World War II pilot whose story inspired me to seek out more of our nation's lost heroes. And among the many missions that you're associated with is this thing called Project Recover.
Yes. We've conducted over 50 missions in 20 different countries, looking explicitly for missing in action associated with past conflicts.
Incredible. Project Recover scours the globe for American MIAs with one objective: to bring them home. Their efforts have led to the discovery of more than 30 World War II wrecks associated with more than 100 missing servicemen who made the ultimate sacrifice. More than a dozen of these individuals have been repatriated, giving long-awaited closure to their families.
So Josh, why don't we go upstairs and I'll show you the next mission we're getting ready for.
I would love to. Come on, please. Eric leads me to the aptly named Viz Room.
Welcome to our operations center.
I mean, this is like mission control.
It is.
You can launch the space shuttle from in here.
We can at least track it.
Right, there you go. This is unbelievable. So when we talk about American MIAs, how many are still out there?
Josh, the numbers are staggering. 83,000 missing in action since World War II up to their present.
83,000?
For instance, let's take a look at this map here, Josh. We've got maps of cases just in the European Mediterranean theater. Each one of these dots represents a case file.
So these are all potential missions?
Yes.
And some of them aren't even on the Defense Department's radar.
The U.S. doesn't recognize people who got lost during training accidents.
They're not counted as MIAs?
They're not counted as MIA. So if you're in a training accident, you are not listed as missing in action, even though your body was never found and brought home to your family.
And how many people are we talking about?
We have about 18,000 individuals that were lost in training accidents.
Really? And does that also mean that nobody's looking for those people?
It's currently not on the search list for the U.S. government. And in fact, a lot of these cases in our own backyard. So as we spin the globe here, we're going to bring you into Southern California. Yellow dots here represent training accidents that our team's been able to uncover for the last year.
Project Recover's next mission, and one of its most mysterious, is here, off of California's Anacapa Island.
These two targets here represent a mid-air collision between two torpedo bombers.
On the morning of February 22nd, 1945, a squadron of Avengers took off from the Naval Air Station in Oxnard, California. Each plane had a 3-man crew on board. Flying over Anacapa Island, they were practicing torpedo runs critical to the war effort when two of the planes collided. According to a report by the commanding officer, pilot Dennis P. Rule's plane ducked suddenly and then flew right up into the aircraft of pilot John Buckley. Rule's plane went down south of the island, and Buckley's plane crashed to the north, where he and another crew member survived. That wreckage has now been located. The second plane on the southern side of the island,
it's never been found. Josh, this is a search for 3 individuals. We've got the pilot, Dennis Rule, we've got the bomber, Ernest Williams, and we've got the radioman, Russ Guzetta. All 3 have been missing from their families for over 70 years.
Dennis Rule's family received the following message from the commander of his unit. I realize how weak and fruitless must be any words of mine which should attempt to comfort you. Exhaustive searches were initiated, but no report of his recovery was made. A month after the accident, Russell Guzetta's bereaved parents contacted their local paper, noting that no details of the crash were released. A desperate appeal for more information on the fate of their missing son. Now, 75 years later, Project Recover hopes to answer that plea.
If they collided in midair, one would think, well, it must be close to the plane that's been recovered, right?
You would think, big airplane, bigger ocean. Look how long it took to find the Titanic. We still haven't found Malaysian Air. And to be honest, nobody's been really charged with that mission to go after these training losses.
So the question is, how do you find it?
So the way we're gonna find this is using not only all that high-tech equipment that I showed you downstairs, but we really gotta do due diligence on all the historical documents to really set up our search areas.
To understand the crash itself.
Exactly. Before we can undertake our mission, we have to really understand in all detail their mission on that fateful day.
In order to solve the mystery of the missing Avenger, I need to get in front of one and decipher the accident itself. Luckily, there happens to be an Avenger just 20 minutes down the coast on the deck of the USS Midway. Commissioned in 1945, this 1,000-foot-long airport on the ocean served until 1992, offering critical support during the Vietnam War and as the flagship in Operation Desert Storm. Now, like a lot of 76-year-olds, she's retired to sunny San Diego. I head down the flight deck to meet historian and naval veteran Carl Zingheim.
Carl. Hey.
Hey, Josh.
How are you, man?
Welcome aboard.
Hey, thank you. Happy to be here. And look at this, the Avenger. You know, my first reaction to being up close to it is how big it is. I think the photos don't really do it justice.
This is the largest single-engine aircraft to routinely operate in World War II at squadron strength.
Why so big?
You needed a big engine to do a big job, and quite literally, they start with a large R2600 engine and built the rest of the airplane around it.
Right, and that big job, I assume, is dropping these.
That's a 2,000-pound torpedo, a delicate instrument in its own right.
And it is live, right? This is left over?
It better not be.
So, okay, I get it. You need a lot of power, and it looks like a pretty big wingspan to pull that off. How important was this plane to the U.S. in World War II?
Critically important. This was a huge step up for naval aviation at the time because now you finally had a torpedo plane that could keep up with the other aircraft so you could have a combined strike. Previous torpedo plane was just too slow and you had disjointed attacks.
With a top speed of about 275 miles per hour, the powerful Avenger lived up to its name, raining fire and fury on Japan's navy. They sank the super battleships Yamato and Musashi, as well as 30 submarines to help win the war in the Pacific. But the torpedo bomber's most innovative feature was its signature stow wing.
How cool is that?
Awesome, isn't it?
Oh my word.
Look at that.
That is so badass.
Probably one of the cleverest ways of putting an aircraft away on a carrier deck.
For deployment on aircraft carriers, including this one, it cuts the plane's 54-foot wingspan in half when they move it below deck.
Let's talk about this incident out at Anacapa, right? I'm trying to understand this. We know there was a mid-air collision out there. Do you suspect that that might be because of how the aircraft flies or because of what they were trying to do with it?
It's a very forgiving aircraft to fly.
Okay.
It's got such a large wing area, you don't have much to worry about in terms of instability or losing control of the aircraft. It probably was down to what they were attempting to practice.
Right.
Dropping a torpedo under combat conditions is the most demanding attack in all of naval aviation.
Even in a big, stable bomber like the Avenger, delivering a torpedo on target took some serious skill.
The torpedo is still the most potent single weapon of destruction against enemy shipping, but only if used properly.
And according to reports from the Anacapa Island crash, pilots Rule and Buckley were perfecting a complicated new attack called an anvil maneuver. Squadrons of bombers would approach a ship from both sides, so that whichever way the ship turned, it faced a torpedo strike.
So the planes are flying kind of toward each other?
Essentially.
It does seem like understanding that maneuver is the key to figuring out both the collision and where these planes crashed.
We could speculate all day about what happened, But to really understand it, you have to fly in one.
Which I assume is impossible. I don't think this thing's lifting off the deck anytime soon. How many of these are even left?
Maybe a handful, but one of those is nearby.
That flies?
That flies.
What's it like to be a new pilot flying an 80-year-old Avenger? I'm about to find out. I meet pilot John Maloney on the wing as he makes final preparations for takeoff.
How you doing?
Good, how you doing?
I'm Josh.
John, how you doing?
Great to meet you. You want to fly or am I flying?
No,
you know what?
Go.
Probably best if you
All
fly,
right.
John. I'll be back here, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, like a glove.
I squeeze into the navigator's seat, thankful that I'm not in the even more claustrophobic tail gunner position. This historic aircraft is about to fly its first mission in decades. Our directive? To reconstruct the accident, to learn how it happened, and solve the mystery of where the lost Avenger lies.
Unbelievable. This is sick.